Jimothy, hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy. Tell me, do you think it'd be alright if he could eat your trash tonight? You see, his final deformity is why we love him so. 'Cause in troubling times like this, I hope he never leaves my feet. He is the hero that we need so desperately. Hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy. Tell me, do you think it'd be alright if you could eat your trash tonight? You see his final performance. Why we love him so? 'Cause in troubling times like these, I hope he never leaves my feet. He is the hero that we need so desperately. Hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy. Tell me, do you think it'd be alright if he could eat your trash tonight? You see, his final deformity is why we love him so. 'Cause in troubling times like these, I hope he never leaves my feet. He is the hero that we need so desperately. Hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy. Tell me, do you think it'd be alright if he could eat your trash tonight? You see, his final deformity is why we love him so. 'Cause in troubling times like this, I hope he never leaves my feet. He is the hero that we need so desperately. Hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy, hey Jimothy. Good morning, everyone. Hope you enjoyed my little Jimothy montage. I am so tickled to have found that heavy metal marching band. I think that's who does the song, and it is just endearing. Quinn, really? Already? She is right in the middle of the desk. You cannot have my tea. No. No tea for kitties. All right. If I can get the cat out of the screen. So yes, you'll get your Catzilla. Give me a second. But we also have an ad in like 25 seconds, so I will take my time getting started. But we'll give Catzilla her credit. Are you going to help today? Is that it? I know I took your desk. All right, the ad is going.
critters. Do you want more treats already? All right. Well, Quinn says it's time for streaming, so I guess I need to like wake myself up. You knocking Jimothy over? So today, last week I was at Girl Scout Day Camp and I, decided to make a tiny little Jimothy. So this is what we're going to be playing with today. We have our tiny little Jimothy, except we're going to make a plush version of him so he'll be a bit bigger. We might make some more tweaks to him too. This is only the second version. So here is the first version. This is the one that got made at camp. And I like that I captured. Hi, Quinn. Yes. No, they don't want to see your butt. Come on. Anyway, so we made a tiny Jimothy at camp last week. And then I started on the second Jimothy, which is a glittery Jimothy too, which is, he's got some sparkle. No, you can't have Jimothy. See her little piggy tail? She's got the most adorable tail. And then it wags like a dog's tail because it's heavier. So it's a... She's kind of missed me last week too, since I was at camp. All right. So today we're going to get started with Premier Parfait yarn. If I can clear the cat. Premier Parfait. The body I'm going to do in seal and then black and white. I think they're just called black and white. Yeah. Not charcoal or any weird name like that. Yep, just black and white. Okay, Quinn. Yes. Yeah, I know that wasn't your fault. All right, yarn took a dive. All right. I'll blame you next time, though, because it probably will be your fault. Ah! The camera lost its mind. Come back here. My following camera gets a little confused sometimes if I move ADHD-like erratically. All right. Come on, over here. All right. Is this what you want? You've already had a few, but there's 3 or 4 in there already. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little scattered. It's been 2 weeks since I've streamed. It feels like forever. All right. So, Jimothy. We will make Jimothy. We will make it with plush yarn. And I'm using a 5.5 millimeter with this yarn. I've even gone down to 5s before. I like it where it's not too loose that you can't, that the stuffing shows. Okay, so one thing I thought about doing is getting some cord to show, because it's really hard to show these stitches on black, so I was thinking maybe I'd do it on something a little bigger where you guys can see. Well, maybe I don't have that either. I could always show it in a different color too, but we'll work with it here. Okay, so I made one of the front paws. I was starting the second back, one of the back paws, because I don't really need to make them all on stream. So let's get our overhead going too. All right, so there. Did my cat camera? Oh, there it is. Okay. So be cute. Your cat camera's on. She's like, I'm already out of treats. Did you eat them all? All right. So here's our front little paw. The really cool thing I like about this pattern is I managed to get little feetsies. And they curl a little bit too, so it looks like little, grabby paws. So we're going to work on those first. And so we'll get all the legs made and the tail, and then we'll start the body, because the one cool thing about my patterns is I really like them to be no-sew or low-sew, because I don't want there to ever be issues with assembly that make it not look like what the pattern, what the design should be. I always struggle, well, not always, but I've been crocheting decades, 53 years now, and I sometimes when you do a pattern, if you don't sew it together exactly the right way, it just doesn't have quite the same charm or that character with it. And so I never want that to be a problem with my pattern. So I like to clearly note where where certain things are added afterwards. So like the ears, we don't sew them on. We go back and add them after. And same thing with the ruffs on the side. The only thing we're sewing onto this one is the mask, just because I really like that lifted look that it has. Hey, no paws in my tea. Hey, little jerk. She's over here putting her paws in my tea. This is mine. Caught her before she actually did it. She was thinking it though. She had her paw like right above the tea. Hey, that's not the kind of cute I want. Go cute down there. All right, so we're going to start with some black yarn for the feet. And they're really pretty simple. The hardest part is black yarn. Get out of my tea. All right, hold on. I got to take the tea away before she spills it. She already stuck her paw in it, so. All right, let's see if the camera lost me or not. You can see my mess. This last week I've been so... Oh, I lost this mic. Come back down here. I'm right here. I've been playing with the settings on the camera, installing new drivers and stuff. So I think if I move too quickly, I can make it lose its mind. Okay, so this week I've been at day camp and prepping a lot of things for day camp. Made 10 sublimation mugs, cut names for 240-ish shirts. So yeah, it's been a week. I'm a tad tired, but that's okay. So one cool thing we're going to do today is a giveaway. So we'll wait till there's a few more people online at least. But then I'm going to try my first giveaway and we'll see how that goes. So you could win a Jimothy. All right, so our pattern, let's see, is we're going to start with the black and a magic ring. So for magic ring, I like to pinch the yarn behind with my pinky and wrap it around my 2 fingers with an X. Some people will do this on top of their hand. I like doing it here where I can control it a little more. So I go under the first and grab the second, and then you can do a chain. And then once you have the chain, it's not really going to come undone. But basically, you want to be working over this tail and the loop. And you can make it a little smaller, especially with plush yarn. The yarn has a tendency to break when you pull the tail to tighten it. So this is where I make the loop a little smaller, and then I'm going to work my single crochets right in the loop, but I'm going to make them just a little loose, not really floppy loose, but I'm going to make 3 single crochets. And this hand assembly is just a little different than the way I normally do them. So that's why I wanted to make sure to get a video, and I'm not sure the black yarn is going to be the best way to do it. So I might go back with some like 1/8 inch rope or something and show it for a tutorial video. So after we have our 3 single crochets, we're going to chain 3. I'm going to make the first little finger by single crocheting in 2 of these. If I can get my hook in there. I'm used to working with acrylic at camp, so this plush is a little funky for me this morning. And my arms are tired. All right, so we slip stitch in 2 for our first little finger, and then we're going to slip stitch down in the magic ring. Then we're going to chain 4 and slip stitch in 3, just so that middle finger is just a tiny bit longer. And then slip stitch in the magic ring, and then chain 3 for the other finger. And I'm not sure how many fingers raccoons have, but I'm going with the cartoon version where it's probably a few less than what they really have. All right, and then my ring was twisting in on itself. and then we do one more slip stitch in the magic ring. So what we have are 3 single crochets, a finger, and a finger. It's a little hard to show on camera because it's black, but you can kind of see there's 3 fingers and single crochets. So now I'm going to pull the ring gently, or we'll show you how easy it breaks. There's the tail. So we're going to gently pull the tail to tighten that ring. And it doesn't have to be super tight because there's not really a big hole there either. And then I'm going to tie it off. You can see though when we pull on the yarn it gets little, it disintegrates pretty easy. All right, so now we have these 3 single crochets here, and it's really kind of hard to show it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in the front loop of each of these. So front loop of the first single crochet that we made, front loop of the second one, and then front loop of the third one. Then we're just going to flip our little hand over, and the back loops we just left, we're going to go in each of those. And this is where it gets tricky to see them. Okay, Jimothy, get off my hook. Oh, my needle. What I did find though is if I go with my yarn needle, I can see them a little easier. So, and some of them are easier than others, but if I can't quite see where the loop is, like sometimes it just kind of gets lost, I can feel it with my needle there. Okay, so now we have 6 single crochets because we went down the one side, turned our work, and went back the other side, working front loops and back loops. So it's really all front loops since we flipped the work around. So here I do need to put a stitch marker or a piece of yarn of some sort. I also want the tail to be on the inside of the arm. Get a little piece of yarn. It's my favorite stitch marker because it's just easy. And I can drape it through the stitches, so that works really well too. All right, so the reason I do that is it's really hard with this black yarn to see where my stitches are, and I want to make sure I don't lose count. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll check and make sure we still have 6 when we get around. All right. 1 stitch. And we're only doing little bits of black for the paws on this guy and the mask. So it's really not that painful to use black, but it's just hard to show. So I'm just working 6 single crochets around this row. Plus I changed my interface, so I've got to look different places for my messages and stuff. I am looking at maybe streaming live on YouTube simultaneously too, for those that I run into people that don't know what Twitch is, and so I find that kind of helpful for them to be able to view too. All right, so I went around 6, and it looks like I did end up back at the first one, so at least I know I have 6 stitches. So I'm going to do 6 more. You gonna lick my fingers? Apparently I need a bath. That's very distracting, Quinn. Yes, I will give you your Catzilla. This month's almost over. You're gonna not have enough Catzillas. But I can't see past your butt to give you Catzilla. Oh, you're up to 7 times. You're really slipping. All right. So that's our black. We did our fingers. And you can see that the middle claw is just a little bit longer. This one looked a little bigger than usual, but... And then we have our little hand where we did the 3 front loop only and then 3 front loop only in the back. And then we worked 6 around twice. So that is our little paw. So then we're going to switch to gray. And this is going to be underneath the leg, so our color changes under here. So even if you have a little step, nobody's really going to notice. On the back leg, again, it's going to kind of be toward the back in the center, so you're really not going to notice much. So it will work fine. All right, so let me find the end of my gray. It gave me some yarn barf this morning, so. All right. Bugables! It is! It's Jimothy. It's Jimothy. Sparkly Jimothy. But we're making a plush Jimothy this morning. Have you heard of Jimothy where you are? He's our unofficial Seattle mascot now. So when I change colors, I do two different ways. If I really need to hide it, I do a little bit different way. But on this one, I'm just going to switch yarn as I finish up this last single crochet. So when I have my 2 loops on the hook, I go ahead and... He is the wonky looking raccoon. And he's also the mascot for disability awareness because everyone has fallen in love with him. All right. So I have switched to gray and we're going to do 2 rows of gray now. So I'm just working 6 single crochets around and I haven't tied off my new yarn yet. Once I get all the way around, I'll tie that off and that will help hide the color change as well. All right, so 6 single crochets. So right now we have a little bit of a step in the color change there, but what I like to do is when I tie it off, I like to take the black, which was a previous color, and the gray, and I just tighten it a little more than I normally would for a knot, because when I flip it around, that basically will pull the colors, it'll smooth them out a little more. So you can see it kind of smooths that transition a little bit more. And then the one thing I'll do if I really want to kind of not have that step as much, I will go in the same stitch for my next stitch instead of in the top of that one, kind of make it a longer single crochet, and then I'll move to the next one. So again, it just kind of masks that there's a step there a little more. So 2 rows of gray, just working 6 single crochets around. Then we go to 8. So the front leg is really pretty thin. So you can see it's pretty much just a tube, mostly 6 single crochets, and then it goes up to 8. Because Jimothy especially has really lanky legs, and I wanted to really capture that. So we're doing 2 single crochets and then an increase around this row to take us from 6 to 8. Yeah, here in Seattle we're seeing a lot more of it just because it's Seattle. All right, so do I have 8 now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so then I work evenly around 8 stitches and then we're done with the front leg. So I like to make the pieces ahead of time because then I can assemble them as I go. Sometimes I get ahead of myself and start on the body and I'm like, oh wait, I need that yarn that I already started using. All right, so we're back around. So I could slip stitch here if I wanted, but I kind of like knowing where that stitch is. So I just usually just chain 1 and fasten off. It is a plush Jimothy. And someone can win him today. I'm going to try my hand at a giveaway. So we'll see how that goes. It may be a failure. Haven't given it as much due diligence as I meant to. But here is our first little Jimothy paw. Well, our second, because I already made one offline. And then I'll just cram the extra yarn into the paw because it also makes it kind of a little more rigid. and then we'll stuff them in a little bit. So there's our 2 front paws. So then we're going to make the back paw, which is a lot like the front paw. It just has a slight difference to make it a little wider. All right, so this one, we're going to do the first 5 rows the same. And again, I wish it was easier to show black yarn, but 3 single crochets, then chain 3, slip stitch 2. I should put some subtitles on these when I publish it out, but I don't know that I'll get that motivated. So we chain 3, slip stitch in 2, and then slip stitch in the magic ring. That gives us our first finger. Then we're going to chain 4 for the middle finger so he can flip you off. No, so he can, it just looks a little more natural. The chain 3 on all of them, they look okay, but I think I like the middle finger. It also causes it to curl just a little more and look a little more grabby. So then I'll slip stitch in 3. And then in my magic circle. So the complexity here is you're working wonky things in a magic ring. So if you're not real comfortable with a magic ring, that can make it a little complicated. Yeah, I know. That's why I might just do a short tutorial with like some white rope of some sort, something big and easy to see this method. But I think even just talking through it and getting a general consensus of how it works, I think is useful. So then I chain 3 and slip stitch in 2 and then slip stitch back in the ring. All right, and again we have our 3 single crochets. It's hard to show this. 3 single crochets and 3 fingers. 1, 2, 3. So then when I pull the ring, it's going to kind of close that up a little bit, and so I'm going to tie it off. And you don't really have to pull these super tight because we're not adding stuffing where the magic ring was. Because now we're going to take these 3 single crochets that are left here. I'm going to work in the front loops, and then we're going to flip the work so we're working in the back loops. And that's going to make our tube. So we're taking a flat surface and turning it into a tube. So magic. Okay, so the hardest part here is finding the loops because it's black yarn. So with this plush, at least, it's got a little bit of gloss to it so I can kind of see it a little better in person. But basically I want to go in just this front loop of each of these stitches. So those 3. All right, so I'm going to try that first. And then I just turn the work. I'm not chaining or anything. And then these ones are the harder ones because we pulled on the loops on the other side. So basically I want to find these 3 back loops that were left, which are now the front loops on this side. And so we're going to go in each of those. And more, you can feel it a lot easier than you can see it. So I usually just put my finger there and I can feel where the yarn slips. All right. And so now we have 3 on that side. So now we've turned our flat into a tube. So ending in 3 little fingers. So here I like to make sure this yarn, my tail of the yarn, is actually on the inside of the arm. Come on, back inside. Because we don't need that on the outside. Okay, and then we're just going to work 6 around twice. So I'm just going to put my stitch marker to make sure I really do get 6 and not lose one there. Sometimes I lose a stitch there because it's hard to see. So too much fuzz. All right, 1 and then 2 and 3. 6, and I come back around to the yarn, so I know I didn't lose one that way. And then I'll just do 1 more row around, and then we'll switch to gray again. Well, no, I lied. Well, we'll still switch to gray, but I think we'll see. We'll see if I wrote it down right, because I was at camp. I did my best. But I did make sparkly Jimothy part of sparkly Jimothy once I got home. So it does seem like the pattern's holding. All right, so now it's the same exact as the front paws, but we're going to diversify a little bit so that the hips are a little bit bigger on this leg. All right, so we are on row 4. So then we're going to switch to gray, which means I didn't need to finish that last stitch. I'm going to switch back to gray. It's so fuzzy. And then we'll single crochet around. And the reason I count 2 is sometimes it looks like there's another stitch here, but I've got 6. 3, 6. But what I will do, once we pull that thread, it'll tighten up. But what I'd like to do is sometimes instead of going in the top of this one where the color changes, I'll go in the bottom and just kind of make a longer single crochet, and that kind of masks that a little bit better too. So, and I leave the black attached until I tie this off so I know which black string is being attached here. And I will pull them both a little tight and then tie them off. And that should mask our color change here. And then we can trim these. Oh good, I didn't cut the wrong one. Sometimes I like to cut the wrong thread. All right, so here's where we're going to start changing it up a little bit. So we did row 5, which was a straight 6 single crochets of gray. Then we're going to go ahead and increase. So we increase a row sooner. That's 1, 2, and then an increase 3, 4. Okay. So now we're at 8. And then we're going to go to 10 and then to 12. So basically we're increasing a lot more here. So then we're going to single crochet in 3. And then our increase. So how have you guys been doing? So this row, then we'll do 4 and then our increase, and then we'll be done. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yay. All right. Now fasten this one off and then we'll do the last one. I was going to try and get them done, but I was super tired. I did not leave the couch much yesterday. All right. And again, we could slip stitch this to make it more seamless, but when I'm attaching it, I really like to know where the centerpiece is. It really does help. And I do like to keep them separate because they do start to look a lot the same. They're not much different. It's just the back legs are a little wider at the top. But if it's in the small yarn, sometimes it's hard to see that. All right, so one more round of black yarn. At least when we do the tail, it will, it's just alternating black and white, so it's a little easier to see. I'm going to do this one pretty quick since we already saw it. Ziggy, can you play some lo-fi, royalty-free music?
Lo-fi hip-hop radio on Amazon Music.
Ziggy, is this royalty-free? Ziggy. Ziggy, play royalty free lo-fi.
Amazon Music Originals. Instrumental on Amazon Music.
Camp is always amazing, but it was so hot. We had a couple of days that got like close to 95, which was kind of hard. I have a swamp cooler bucket misting fan thing, but it can only do so much. Ziggy, stop. Ziggy, stop. Clearly she's lost her mind this morning. Oh, I really shouldn't drive over my dress. It makes it a little harder to focus. All right. So I'm going to pull my tail and we'll have our little fingies. Little fingers. Yeah, Ziggy's not behaving too well right now. All right, so I'll tie this off. And I'm going to work in the front loops of these. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I'm just guessing where these loops are at this point. There's 1. All right, I think I can see them, maybe. Plus my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. But at the end of the day, as long as you have 6 single crochets where you had 3, that you're pretty much on the right track. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that's my starting one again right there. And I make sure this tail is on the inside right there because it likes to be on the outside. It wasn't too smoky. I mean, I guess it was. It just didn't feel like it at the time, but it was hazy. So I know we got some of it. But it wasn't nearly as bad as the East Coast, so I'll take it. All right, again, I put my stitch marker there because on this black yarn it's impossible to see where my beginning is. So I'm going to go 6 around twice, or just count to 12. But I like this method for taking a flat 3 single crochets and then turning it into a tube. It's kind of how knitting socks kind of works too. There's one method for starting at the toe, and you split the stitches to have 2 sides. All right, this last one, and then I'm not going to finish this one because I'll finish it with the gray. And again, you can't really see where these, I mean, if you're looking for it, you can kind of see where the color change was, but it's not real obvious at a glance. I mean, because like on his legs, other than the fuzz that's jumping on, it works. Okay, so now we switch to our gray. And then work 6 around again. If I can find where that, there it is. I do like this Premier Parfait because for a plush yarn you can actually usually see the stitches as long as it's not black. But black there's really not a lot of hope for. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I count because last one, this looked like it wasn't a stitch, and this one it is. So there's my 6th one. All right, and again, instead of going in the top of the stitch, I'm just going to go in the bottom of it, make the stitch a little longer, and then I can tie these off. So long black one to short gray one, pulling them a little tight. Fuzzy, fuzzy, fuzzies. All right. Okay. And since it's a back leg, now we're switching to doing, we did 6, now we're doing 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'm going to go to 10. I tease that crochet is a lot about math because if you know your multiples, it works so much easier. And the next one, we're going to go to 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our increase. So again, even though the fingers are a little tricky, since you're doing 4 of them, it gets pretty easy to remember once you've done a couple. All right, we cut our yarn, do our chain, pull it through, and now we have our 4th leg. All right, so now we need to do a tail, which I start with. Actually, I did the tail further back in my book. You can see my notes are really official, like they're rough, but it's okay. It's like at camp. All right, so here's our tail. All right, so we're going to start with black. And I'm not even going to bother with the magic ring on this because it's really stumpy anyways. So we do chain 2. I'm going to single crochet 4 in that second chain from the hook. 2. You just have to trust me since you can't really see where I'm putting the stitches. 3, 4. And then we're going to go up to 6 if I can find them. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. There's that one. I count backwards a lot of times when I can't find where the starting stitch is because I can see 1, 2, 3. So I know the 4th one has to be here somewhere. Kind of right there. There we go. And so 1. And then an increase. It is applicable math. I know some Waldorf schools teach crochet in like kindergarten or 1st grade before they ever even teach math because it teaches counting and the concepts of numbers long before they're ready for it. So here I'm going to make sure it's all pushed to the right side because I won't really be I hate starting with 4 single crochets, but for this it really was the best approach. So on this one I'm going to use my usual color change method. It's a little more obvious, or since the color changes here, you can kind of see on the back there's so little rows that it's easy. If you don't get it on just right, you'll see that. So what I do for that, we're going to switch to using white if I can find the end. So did you know that when there's an end that's stuck in, if you pull it out, the real end is supposed to come from the other side, theoretically. This needs very little white yarn, so if you have just some scraps, that's enough, because it's just the tail and a little bit of a mask. All right, we're going to get a lot of white yarn, though. All right, that's how it's going to be, I guess. All right, and there it is right there, probably. Okay, so for my usual method, again, it's harder to see on black, but what I do is I pull this loop a little bigger, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's my next stitch right here, maybe. I could see it, but I kept getting in the middle of the stitch instead of, so right there, I take my working loop and I pull it, oops, I did it backwards. I pull it from the front to the back. So it's kind of, in my mind, it feels like a reverse slip stitch, but it's not. It's just I'm pulling that loop to the back. And I'll pull it to be the right size. Oh. Sometimes plush yarn is not my friend. This is going to break. Yeah, see how the plush yarn likes to fray? I am afraid I'm going to break this one. All right, we have a fail. We're just going to start that over because that yarn got too fragile. I'm not going to risk it. Now I fuzz everywhere. All right, so we just wanted to see it again, right? So we do. This yarn's just a little fragile this morning. All right, so, or I'm just a little barbarian this morning. 4 single crochets in that starting chain. Then the next row we do single crochet and then increase. And we are going to do a giveaway later if I can manage to do it. So for those of you who are here, I don't know, we'll figure out what time. Maybe when we get most of the way done with Jimothy, we'll do a giveaway. All right. So we should have 6 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so maybe we're just going to change it the way we were originally because then I don't have to risk breaking it. All right, so to do that, basically this last single crochet, we'll finish up with white. The fuzzy yarn also masks the color change a little bit more. So then our next stitch, we work in white, and then we do, are we increasing already? Let's see, we are. We're going up to 8 stitches. So single crochet in 2, and then our increase, 1, 2 in that one, and then 1, 2, and our increase. But I'm not going to finish off that stitch because I'm going to switch back to black. But there you can see we have our little nubby tail with our, and I'm just going to pull the, I'm going to tie off the white because we didn't tie off the first one. I don't want to pull it too tight on this one, but I want to pull it to snugs just so the color change kind of melds a little better. Okay, and I'm not cutting the yarn because I'm going to switch back and forth to black and white a lot here for these couple of rows. It's not a really long tail. Jimothy has a really stubby little tail. So it's really just a couple of rows. So now I switch to black. All right, we'll finish off that stitch of that row with the black, and then we come over here and do this 1, 2, and I think we're just working evenly for a couple of rows. Yep. 3, And as we do this last stitch, we will finish back with white. And all I do is I kind of tug on the white a little just so it kind of melds better with the stitches that were there. And now we're working with white for this row. Then we switch black to black. I think that's our last row of white. White, white. Yes, just 2 rows of white. So we will go ahead and cut the white. And we can go and tie it off here if we want. So again, the legs and the little tail work up really quickly. And since we're assembling it as we go, there won't be a lot of assembly when we're done. So. Just tucking these threads inside before I make it too small. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go down to 4 stitches. So I'm just going to decrease around. And I'm going to do invisible decreases, but I'm not sure it's really going to matter. But before I do that, I need to mark that I need to stuff it. I always forget to include that. So, but before it gets too tiny, we definitely want to add our stuffing. And I could use dark stuffing on this too, but for the tail, I'm not adding very much. So. And the tail doesn't have to be overly stuffed. It just needs to have a little stuffing to hold its shape. All right. 1 decrease. 2. And when you go down to 4, the hole is pretty closed already, but I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch and leave myself a little bit of a tail to close it. Now I remember why I don't work with plush yarn that much. It's very fuzzy. And so I'm just going to pick up the front loops of each of these stitches, probably. And tug it a little, and it's closed. Tying it off. And then I do not need the tail to, the yarn tail to attach it to the body, although you could. On the first one, I didn't know where I wanted to put it yet, so I sewed it on afterwards. That's an easy thing to attach if you want more flexibility in where you place it. But otherwise, here's our little Jimothy tail, and you can kind of see a little bit where the color changes happen, but it's not real noticeable. So we'll just put that underneath the tail when we do attach it. All right, so we have our 4 legs and our tail. So we are ready to start on Jimothy now. And I thought about different colors. I have several different colors of gray or silver. I thought about doing him this color, but I think I like the smoky gray better. So, but I might make more than one. So if we have a winner, they might be able to choose a different color if I'm not tired of looking at Jimothy by then. So far, this is only the 3rd one, so I'm really impressed with that. A lot of my patterns take 6 or 8 iterations, some even more before I get it right, because I'm just not happy with the way the character comes across. And so, anyways, all right, so, oh, my book. Back to the book. Front legs, back legs, tail. And I should have this pattern written up maybe later today. We'll see how tired I am. It'll be out this week though. All right, so we're going to start with gray, But I still got to type it all in and make sure I have all my notes typed right. And it'll be a free pattern, so you guys can hit my Patreon to grab it. If you want to just follow, there's a free tier. If you want to follow, then you'll get notified when it comes out. All right, so we're going to start with 6 in a magic ring. Much easier than the tiny little ones in black. I can't count. So, all right, so we have 6. So we gently pull our ring. I've heard that if you pull it, instead of pulling the yarn this way, if you pull it kind of where the direction the yarn is going through through your stitches, it's less likely to break. And I don't over pull it on these, but then the next row we're going to increase 6 times. So typical circle. So I'm going to go ahead and start this first one. I like to tie off my magic ring halfway through a single crochet just because it doesn't make the loops too tight to try and go through. So this row we're going to increase in each stitch around, so we'll end up with 12. If I could crochet today. Are you snoring, Quinn? All right. I like to double check my counts a lot of times when I'm, especially if I'm talking, because if I get off here, it's going to throw it all off later. There are a few places where I will have notes, like when we're attaching the legs. If somehow you get off and it looks wonky, we'll be able to adjust to that, so you don't have to start over. All right, then we're going to go up to 18. So again, still standard circle here. Single crochet in 1 and then an increase. We'll do that 6 times. Maybe. Should put on some background music. It's so quiet when I'm not talking. All right, so there's our 18. So we have a nice little flat circle. So then it's going to get a little interesting. Actually, I'm going to put some music, I think. Maybe. Because I can use my kids' music anytime. They are up on Bandcamp. As Amperi. Just got to remember which one's not too much battle music, because she makes music for My Little Pony fandom. She also does music for her D&D campaign, which is really cool. And so that works really well for me a lot of the times, but sometimes it's the fight scenes get a little bit oops, it is way too loud. Sometimes I get too aggressive in my crochet if it's battle music. All right, so now we're going to crochet in 6. We're just doing regular stitches, not increases anymore. And actually I need to put a marker. There it is. Nope. Gray on gray may not be the most ideal, but we'll see what we can do. This is where I've changed my notes a few times, so I want to make sure I count it out right. All right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I forgot to add the tail in my notes. Guess we'll be sewing this tail on, and I will add it to my notes later where we're supposed to do that, I think. Because I think the tail gets added on row 2. I guess we could go back to that. Let's just do that. We actually don't need the top of the row or the bottom of the row. Oh, I did make a note. I just missed it. Okay, so it's at the beginning of this row. All right, so we should have 12. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, so at the beginning of this row, basically we're going to take the tail and we want it pointing with any downsides down, or actually kind of up, because this will be flipped around. This will be the bottom. I think that's how it works. So with the worst side facing up, we're just going to go right through. Oh, come on. We're just going to go through the end of the tail in one space, and our first single crochet we're just going to make through the tail. So we just attach it in one little spot. We could attach it in 2 if we really felt like it. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm just working through the end of it. So I actually could just not even sew it closed and have those 4 stitches that we flatten out. Yeah, I kind of like that. I think the 2 looks a little better. Hi, Quinn. Yep, you'll get your Catzilla moment again, but we don't want to see your butt. So I can't see where to type the Catzilla either. There you go. Right? So if anyone can report Catzilla, you just start with the exclamation point like that, and you can record Catzilla. I think it's got a cooldown, so even if multiple people did it, it wouldn't hurt anything. All right. Now I have a cat on me. Hi. You don't like cuddling. What is your deal? Okay, check this out. She's like right here in my arms. Yeah, what could go wrong? All right, now I remember why I only did 1 stitch, because this is an increase here, so maybe we only do 1. But I'll leave that one attached at 2. But I went ahead and made an increase there, so because this is single crochet 1 and then increase 1. Oh, we're gonna have it add in a minute, so if you guys need to grab a snack or take a bathroom break, or cuddle your cat. Hi, Quinn. This is the most hilarious way she's done it yet, where she's just like sitting in between my arms. Hi, I know. I love you too. Don't eat my glasses. All right. Actually, I think I might have put the tail upside down, because this is at the top of that round. Okay, well, here we go again. I'd rather get the plush one pretty, especially if I'm going to give it away. So, all right, so we will flip it with the wrong side down, or the worst side down, and we will just go through 1, through the middle. All right, I think we're back from ads. 2, 3, 1. So I'm getting row 3 put back together with our 18 stitches and our tail attached facing the right side up. I'm never getting rid of that. I do think doing these on stream is very, it does help me really fine tune what needs to be explained and what doesn't, because I'm talking through it. I struggle with that when I'm just writing it in a vacuum by myself, because I'm like, I write things in such shorthand that I don't even spell it all out. And so now that we have our tail here, we have a big stitch marker because that's our first stitch. So now you can see we have our little raccoon butt with our tail with the color changes facing down. So gravity is going to mean nobody really sees those color changes. All right, and there's our stumpy little raccoon tail. All right, so after 18 stitches, then we're going to start attaching the legs. So we're going to go into 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to attach the back leg across 3 stitches. So what I like to do is flatten it with the little fingers pointing up, and our end of row should be at the back. And it usually falls right about the middle of the back. And so what I'm going to do is attach it in 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. So I go through that. Basically, it's the middle 3 stitches of the back. So I'm putting my hook in that first of 3 stitches and through the body. And work that stitch, and then this next one I go through there, but see, that way that jaggedy edge gets buried in the joint under the body, so nobody's going to see it. So and then the 3rd stitch and through the body. So you can see we have our little leg dangling, and we just worked through the inside of it. So we just worked attaching it across 3 stitches. In the next row, when we come back around, we're going to come to here and then go around the outside of the leg, and that'll give us a real like haunches kind of, you know, hip joint. All right, and then we go in 1 single crochet. I find if I don't single crochet between the 2 legs, it can get a gap there a little easier. And then we're going to take the other back leg and flatten it. And we have our stitches here, so we're going to go in 1, 2, and 3. So just kind of at the back. I mean, even if you shifted it a little, went here, here, and here, it's fine, as long as it's kind of the back of the leg. And the most confusing thing is just using the right piece of yarn. So I'm through that one, and I'm going to go in the next stitch here and work that single crochet, and then the top of this stitch and the next stitch. And I'm doing it pretty fast, but you can slow it down. Where you go through this stitch, I open it up so I can see where that next stitch is, because it's easy to miss one or to go in one twice. Now we have our other little back leg. So there's our 2 back legs and our tail. And a bunch of other string. I'm just going to trim some of these off so it's a little less chaotic. Okay. So you can see we have our tail and our 2 back legs. And the tail should be centered on the legs. So if it's not, you can adjust by 1 row or another, or 1 stitch or another to make that so. But this should be pretty centered. And then I'm going to go 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we started with 6 because the tail was one of them, and so it has 5 on one side, 5 on another side, the 2 legs attached across 3, and then 1 in the middle. So that's something I might eventually put a diagram for, because I really think something like that could be helpful to visualize how it goes together. But you can kind of see the legs are to each side with 1 stitch in the middle. So I just like to show that because I think that's going to be one of the more confusing parts. So you sitting over there ignoring me now? Oh, you got cat treats. I almost missed that. Buggable sent you treats. Let's get you some treats. You ready? Ready? She's like, I want one I don't have to work for. Okay, so now we are over in the pit. In the pit. Go on. They're in the pit. They're in there. She's like, no, I want you to give it to me. She's so lazy. She's not, but all right. So this next row, we are going to single crochet I think 6. We'll see. I scratched it out one too many times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now here's one of the other little tricks I do, because if I go directly from here to the next stitch here, that's a big gap, right? So what I like to do is I grab a loop from this, it's kind of behind the leg, but I grab a loop from that stitch and then go into the next stitch as a decrease. So what that does is it fills in that gap really good. There's no hole there at all. I'm just trying to remember if I did it right on what I was saying. So we'll see if the numbers work out. And then there should be 9 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I lied. We don't go in the next one of this because it would be 8 there. So we go in the next stitch of the body and then in the seam between the two, or in that stitch that we already worked. Then in 9, because that leaves 9 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go in our center between the 2 legs. And then we go in the next stitch here. And so we have 9 of these. And then we're going to do a decrease between this seam here. So basically we're just kind of going in the stitch that was already worked here and our and the next body stitch, because that way it's just really, really flawless right there. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, I think I missed that. It's not actually the body stitch. It's the seam. This one and the one before it. That I'm going to have to try and figure out how to spell out. And then it should be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I just say to single crochet in the seam between and not even make it a decrease with another stitch. That might work too. But either way, it's got the same number of stitches. So now you can see that our body is starting to shape up. We have our 2 back legs. And those toes just flare out just right because we're not stuffing them. They don't have any stuffing in them. So they kind of lay flat like a raccoon's legs do. You kind of see how these ones, once you sit it, they kind of flare out just a little bit. So anyways, we have our tail and our 2 legs. So now we're going to work, and we should have 32 stitches here. I probably should check that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 32. Look at me. I can count before coffee. And the cat even stole my tea. All right, so here we're going to do some short rows. So short rows allow us to do shaping more dramatically, because I'm really going from we're adding this and we're wanting to do kind of a 90-degree angle joint with the way they're joining. So we do some short rows across here and across up here. They make a little bit different texture, but honestly, they're not that noticeable. You can kind of see a little more on this first one. I think with the plush yarn, they're not going to be real noticeable at all. But with the glitter, and the glitter, they were fine. It's just on the plain matte acrylic. You can just see a little bit of a texture difference, but it's not really noticeable. And I think it really gives it a lot of, it gives a lot more control to that. All right, so here's where I am going to bring back my stitch marker of some sort. I'm going to use a piece of black. Fuzz everywhere. Hopefully I did do back legs. Yes. Probably. Yes. Okay. Oh, my count would have been off if I didn't. All right, so we're going to add our little stitch marker yarn, and we're going to do single crochet in 6. And they're called short rows because we don't work in the round. We actually stop and turn. So we're going to chain 1 and then turn our work. So we only went 6. Then we're going to skip the next one. So I skip this one we're in, and then we're going to single crochet in 11. So we're going back past our starting point. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so see, we're pretty much going from leg to leg on this one. So then we chain 1 again, and you skip 1, and then we says we go in 12. We'll see if my number really adds up. 2, 3, 4. Oh, I did it wrong. That's why my numbers weren't adding up. All right, so we went in 11. Then we do a decrease. And we want to do a regular decrease, not an invisible, because we're on the wrong side. We don't want to leave a back loop there. So we're going to pull up a loop in that stitch and that one and do our decrease. Then we do another single crochet there. Then we chain 1 and turn. So what that's doing is it's pulling this leg forward by decreasing here so the leg doesn't bend back toward the back of the body. All right, so we skip that one, then we go in 12. All right, then at 12, we're going to work in the sides. So see, our short rows are making this like 90-degree angle here. We're just going to find a stitch in the middle there and just work right in the middle of that row. Then we're going to decrease. So we find our next stitch. So this stitch was already worked by the previous row. So we want here, and we can do invisible decrease here. And again, we're just closing up that joint. And then we do 1 more, and then we chain 1 and turn. So as we're going across, we're pulling this 90-degree angle down like this as we decrease, and we're attaching this bottom to the leg. And so we're basically just softening this curve right here. All right, so skip 1, and then we should go in 13. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. Then we're going to single crochet in the side, and then we're going to decrease down here, full decrease, not an invisible decrease, and then one more. 13 in the side, decrease, single crochet, chain one, turn. All right, so you can see we're starting to build up that hip right here, which will be really more noticeable once it's stuffed. And yeah, so our little heart-shaped body here. Before we get too far, I want to remember to stuff the legs out, because I tend to forget to do that, and it's a little harder to get it all the way down in those legs once we're too far along. You've had plenty of treats. All right, so we chained one, we turned, and so now we're gonna do a, did I chain one? I did not. Chain one, turn. So we skip one, and then we go in 14. So you're seeing a rhythm here. We're just going across, then we're doing in the side of each of the short rows, and then we're doing a decrease and a single crochet. Don't eat that. It's not a bug. She likes fiber in her diet. This isn't good fiber, though. Don't stick your nose in the camera. So we do our 14. Then we single crochet in the side of our short rows. And then we decrease on our hip. And now we're done with our short rows for here. You can see how it really shaped our hips and joined this piece, our circle piece, into here. And yes, he does have a big butt, so that is the shape we're going for. All right, so now we're going to go in 19, and that should put us back around to kind of where our starting place was. Let's see if I wrote it down right. It's only got 18. So we should have 28 stitches now, so let's check that out. 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 27, 28. All right, we have 28 stitches, probably. All right, so now we're going to go up to 32. So we're just going to do a standard increase here, because we basically, I didn't, on this first one, the back was kind of a little, after we joined the hip, it was just a little too flat there, and I wanted it a little fluffier, a little more rounded. Because Jimothy he's a tad like round. All right, so I'm going to move my little stitch marker, and actually 19 might have been right. Let's see. Oh, the way I usually like to do it too is I'll fold the whole work in half. So yeah, I guess 19 was correct. Because I'm just trying to keep the seam at the middle of the back. So if I fold the whole work in half, that'll tell me where my, if I'm in the right place. So I'm just gonna move my stitch marker up. All right, so now we're going to single crochet in 6 and then increase. So now we have 32 stitches around. And you can see we have our legs, our little tail, and there are definitely joints here where they're joining, which is nice. All right, so then we're going to work around one whole row again, just straight single crochet. So Buggables, are you still working on birds? Which ones are you doing now? I feel so awkward at crocheting today though. My arms are still so tired. But it's okay. We're going to get through Jimothy today. Oh, the wood thrush. Yeah, I've been trying to catch some of your VODs to see what you've been making. But this week I was so tired. I just came home and died every day. But it is neat how just subtle changes to the wings make them look like it, you know, it really does. That's how you capture the character of the birds. It's just really neat, the different types of feathers or finishes that you give it. I do find myself counting more with this plush yarn because it's easy to miss one because they're kind of all blend together. And this isn't the most plush yarn. This is just kind of it's a bulky weight, but I find it's kind of halfway as bulky as like a Bernat blanket or Premier Basic Chenille. They're thicker. So this isn't going to be a giant plushie. I can get a much bigger Jimothy out of the plush yarn too. But I wanted to start with this because it's a little more forgiving if I have to pull it out. It doesn't, I mean, even though we've had frayed yarns on this one already, it's not nearly as bad. All right, and so that one's around. All right, and we're already going to attach the front legs because the thing about Jimothy, he's got short spine syndrome. So the distance between his front and back legs are so different than a regular raccoon where he would be longer. So, so here we're going to start to attach the front legs. And again, as long as they're centered on the body, you can shift these counts. If for some reason you got your counts are off or something, you can, and you fix them and your counts don't, like your starting row isn't exactly, your starting stitch isn't exactly where I've been, it's easy enough to correct that as you go. So we're going to go 12. All right, and then we're going to attach over how many stitches? 3. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go in the middle, and then 1, 2, 3. So these 7 stitches, 3, 4, 7. That should be the center of our body. So when I flatten this out, as long as those are centered on from there to there, attaching our front legs will line up on the back legs. So if you need to shift it over 1 or 2, that's fine. And again, we're going to attach them the same way. Flatten out the leg with the paw flat. With our ending place should be kind of in the middle of the back. And so I'm going to go in 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3 on this one. So my yarn through the stitch on the foot and then find the next stitch on the body. 1, and then I'm going to go in the top of this stitch and the next stitch of the body here. And the next leg and the next body. Oh, actually I'm single crocheting in 2 on the body on this one. So it was seeming a little off, but that it's like it was seeming like half a stitch off, but I didn't really want to shift it a whole one, so that makes more sense now. So again, flatten the leg, find your 3 back stitches. We're going to attach it across 3, and after we attach them, we'll just double check, do a sanity check to make sure it still looks right, because crochet, it isn't always the numbers. Sometimes the numbers are right, but the it just looks off because of the way the stitches slant or, you know, shift over time. And so I like to give you your milestones where yeah, there definitely are some differences with plush yarn. And so basically I just like to flatten them out and make sure that the legs look centered, and these do. They so it doesn't look awkward. That looks definitely centered on the front legs. So I like to give you freedom. I've tested patterns before where I've gotten a stitch off somewhere and I'm like, it drove me crazy. And so I like to give you these milestones to be able to check, kind of a sanity check to make sure it's going together right. Because if not, it's easy to fix it there. But if you don't notice till later on, it's so much more work. All right. And then we do 12 stitches. And again, you just want to make sure you don't go in the same one again. So then we should have 12 back to the starting place. And I am a fan of, if you're only off by one stitch, just add a stitch back in somewhere. As long as you can make sure that you're in the right place and be able to line things up, there's nothing, no one's going to notice one more stitch added in somewhere. All right, so now I get to turn the page. We're already like halfway done with the body. Probably, maybe. Lots of scritchy scratches on these, so. All right. So we are going to, so now we're going to work around the body and go around the front part of the legs, just like we did on the back legs. It really just adds a little bit of like muscle, or it makes it look more realistic than if they're just flat mounted to the body. I don't do it all the times, but on my dragon and griffin, it really did add a lot to it. So I thought on Jimothy, since he's kind of chonky, that would really add a lot too. So, all right, so we're going to go around 11. 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do a decrease, because again, I like to make sure that we don't get a gap here. So what I do is I'm going to go grab a loop here and grab a loop. You okay, Quinn? Don't get your tail stuck on things. And I like to make sure this is tugged a little snugly, so again, it doesn't make a hole. You can see now we don't have a hole there. And then we're going to do a little increasing, because what I found is on the first one, the legs kind of bowed in right there, and so I fixed that a little more, where now they're a little more beefy right there. So we're just going to do little increases there. So we're going to single crochet and then increase. Twice, and that's another single crochet and an increase. Then we're going to do a decrease, so from this leg to that one stitch in the middle of the body to make sure there's not a hole, and another decrease from the middle of the body to the first stitch on this leg. And again, sometimes you have to just see where is the stitch going, because you don't want to go in that one, because that one you already worked in, so it's this one right here. Oops, there. And then we single crochet and then an increase and a single crochet. Hi, Quinn, and an increase. And again, if you get off somewhere, add another increase in there. It's not a big deal. Like if you accidentally, miscounted on the back where you're joining and this doesn't add up, it's fine. And so here it's kind of a little tricky, because you have a stitch here and here. This one was the body behind the legs, so you want to go in this next leg one. And again, if your number's off, that's the easiest place you've lost it. It's just a few places are a little tricky. So that was our decrease, and now we should do 11 more, theoretically. We'll see if my numbers add up. And even though it looks like it's off, this row kind of drifts, so that is where it should be. So that's 11. So if your numbers are off anywhere, usually it's where you've joined the legs to the body and then start working around. That's easy enough to get. Exactly. You can see the body's already shaping up nicely just in getting those legs attached. So we're going to do some more short rows. Well, no, we're not. We're going to do another row, and then we'll do some short rows because, again, we want the arch of the back to curve up around, so we need to have less stitches on this side and more on the back. So short rows can be really intimidating if you haven't done them, but they really are liberating. There's a lot you can do with them. You can really have a lot more control over shapes if you can learn to do them. And again, writing the pattern with short rows I think is harder than doing the pattern with short rows, because with writing it, I get distracted from counting it and doing it, and then I'll forget to write one of the rows down, and I'm like, why doesn't this add up? So it makes my head hurt a little bit sometimes, but that's okay. So now we're going to do 10 and then do a decrease, because we're going to keep decreasing at the joints to give it the right angle to the legs. And I stopped counting while talking, so I'll go back and count here in a minute. That's why I move my stitch marker up quite a bit, mainly in doing short rows and weird things like that, because I need to be able to count them. So 2, 4, 6, 8, because I know where it should be, and I could do it without the pattern, but I'm really trying to make sure the pattern is right. All right, so again, we're at this joint, so we're going to do an invisible decrease right here. And again, that just pulls the leg back just a little bit so it doesn't bend backwards like this. It'll start to poke out more like this. And then we are going to do 14, so all around the front of the legs, so that should add up. All right, so there's our 14, and it should end up right at the joint of the leg again. So see right here where you can see that we definitely want to pull that in just a little bit. And I think I'm going to try and start up the giveaway in just a minute, because you guys can enter multiple times, and everybody gets a free entry, and then you can use some channel points for it too. And subscribers will have a little bit better chance of winning, but it's not too tilted. So I'm going to go and start that, just because we're about over halfway done now, and I want everybody to be able to enter if they've been here. I don't want you to. So it should pop up on chat. Oh, look at that. It did. So I think you can buy there's a limit on how many tickets you can get to. Let's see, where is my, I changed my interface and it's bugging me a bit. Where's my, okay, let's try and pin it from the other one. No? Okay. Okay. I got it to pin it. My chat just isn't as big as I'm used to it being in my layout, so it's irritating me a little. Okay. So feel free to try that. If you're in the contiguous US, I will ship you a Jimothy for free with shipping and everything. I just don't know how much shipping is internationally, so I didn't want to overcommit to that yet. But if you are international and the shipping's not too expensive, I'm happy to try and do that too. All right, so we did our 14 and our decrease. And our single crochet 10. All right, so now we should have 36 stitches. I'm gonna count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 26, I am so grateful. It adds up. Try 19 Buggables. I think it gave everybody one for free, but I don't know if you have to enter it to do it. Oh, I see. When you did that ticket, I think it gave you one, so then you have 19 left. I think it'll let you do up to 20. You know, I'm new at this. I'm trying to figure this out, so we'll see. All right, so we have 36. So now we're going to do some short rows again to work on the shaping. So let's see if I can count through that. And then maybe once we finish the short rows, maybe when we switch, I don't know. We might do the drawing when we get to the face, when we get to the white, when we go to change color. I think that'll be a good place. That's okay. It's entertaining. And my math is very bad today. All right, so my short rows, I'm going to single crochet in 8. I'm just hoping I wrote it all down right because I was so tired when I was writing it as I went. Okay, 8. 2, 4, 6. I did do 8. Then I'm going to decrease twice because I really want to close up this joint a little bit more. So I'm going to decrease twice. 1 and 2. Then single crochet. 1. That's the first start of our short row. So then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to skip 1. Just because I don't like it to be a 90-degree angle, I like it to angle a little more with the body. It just gives it a little more curve. So then I'm going to do 18, I think. All right, and then we're going to do 18, then 2 decreases. And again, we want to do full decreases here because we don't want to have that show up wrong on the other side. We don't want invisible ones because we'd have a front loop only sticking out. Then we single crochet again and chain 1 and turn. All right, so skip 1 and then we do 20. All right, there's 20. Oops, I want that whole loop, not just part of it. 20. Then I'm going to decrease across the side of the row and the next stitch, which is this one. Then single crochet 1 and chain 1 and turn. And again, Every now and then I flatten it out just to see, sanity check, is it lining up? Because see, math would have told me to do 2 decreases here, but that would have been too many for that. So sometimes it's a little wonky in the way we work it out. All right, so skip 1 and then do 21. I like that this is a fun pattern to learn short rows with because it's not a real big pattern and yet it has a lot of short rows in it. All right, so now we do a decrease again in the side of the front short rows and the next stitch, this one. Decrease, then a single crochet, then a chain 1 and a turn. I wrote something wrong, so I'm trying to figure out what the heck I did. So actually, so I had 1 row and then we're going back into short rows again. So really, we are going to 22, skip 1, then 22. Again, the problem of creating while I write. I thought I was done with short rows, but I wasn't, so then I had to translate back into short rows again. So 5, 6. Really need to get a different mat, something with like a picture where I need to keep my hands at so that I don't drift as much because I have to keep remembering to stay in the middle of the screen. All right, so 22. Then we're going to decrease in the side row and the next stitch, which is that one. Oh, I see why I did that. because this row we are going to go all the way around. Okay, I see. All right, so then we're going to keep going. So we do one regular row and then we're back to short rows again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we do a decrease. Then 6. So now we're going to do the little trick I do to add ears, because I don't like having to guess where the ears are supposed to go. So what I do is I give myself some little front loop only stitches lingering. So 1, 2, and then 3, and 3, and 2. So yes, that looks centered. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work in the back loop only for 2 stitches. And I find that on plush yarn, this isn't as obvious. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of contrasting color yarn, because we need something we can see. All right, so I'm just going to get a piece of acrylic, because it won't break when I try and pull it out either. And then what I like to do is weave it into those front loops, because it's really easy to see them where I just worked them. But if I give it a few minutes, I won't be able to find those. So I just like to weave it in those loops just so I can see them. All right, then I'm going to stitch in then in 3 stitches to finish up this row. And then the next row we'll start with 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we do our back loop only again for 2. And again, the other reason I carry the string is it helps me see if my stitches are really where I want them to be, because I can correct them easily here, but I can't correct them as easy later. So when I flatten out the body and center everything, are those ears going to be centered? There'll be one here and one here. And that does look pretty centered, so yay! Okay, so 3 back loop only. 1, 2, 3. And we're actually starting short rows again. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. We're almost to the white, and then we'll do our drawing. And the odds of winning are really good because there's only a couple of you online. But that's okay, because prizes are prizes, and they're fun. So now we're going to skip 1 and do 12, I think. We'll see. I didn't put the skip 1, but I think I should have, so we'll see if that matches out. All right. Oh. That doesn't line up. So you can see how this is further over than here on the thing. So I definitely did something wacky. But I scratched it out multiple times there, so. think I went one too many here. So we will just go 11. Then chain 1. So, and actually I don't think I was skipping them on these ones, was I? Yeah, I guess I was. Okay, so skip 1 and then 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Two. Ah! I corrected the wrong spot. So that would be, no, that's 3. This one is 2. Chain 1, turn, skip 1, then 12. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. One more. All right. And see, now it lines up. So see, that's what I'm doing constantly, are these double checking to make sure I wrote it right. So, all right, so 12. We are almost to the white. A few more rows here. So chain 1, turn, 11, skip that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we chain 1 and turn, skip 1 and 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I did 3, then 12, then 11, then 10. But I'm facing the wrong way. So what else did I do? I think I went one row too many. Or I wrote it down wrong, but because what I want to be doing is going this way. Because we're now leaving the short rows. And we're doing one in the side. So one in the side of the short rows. Hence you see why it's going to take me a little while to get this written up, because it's being weird. And then 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope, only 4. Because we're going to do an invisible decrease right here. I didn't like the way the legs were flaring out, so we do an invisible decrease, then 2, and then another invisible decrease, and that just pulls in that center just a little bit, because it's the subtle shaping that makes the most difference on these. Okay, come on. All right. Then we single crochet in the side of that short row, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that leaves us right in the middle. I think we should have 28, so I'm going to double check. And we're going to add in 30 seconds. And then we're going to switch to white after one more row. So we'll do our drawing in just a minute. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 24, 26, 28. All right, 10 seconds to the add. I'm going to do the next row, and then we'll do our drawing. Probably, as long as it works. I don't know. Haven't tried it before live, so we'll have to see how it works. All right. Do another decrease, 2 more decreases. All right, not sure if the ad's over yet, but I think we are. So you can kind of see where we did more decreases on this row, so it kind of starts to pull in this face piece here at a more distinct angle, which will be, it won't be as obvious once we sew the mask on, but it really does do a good job of pulling that over and having the ears, which will be right here, stick up. And so our mask will go across, halfway across the gray and the white. So you can kind of see how our ears will be right here. And then this will become our face, our little nose, because his nose kind of points down a little bit. All right, and that's still staying centered. So let's see about our drawing. Did someone confirm that we are back? I think we're back. So hopefully you can hear me, see me. So I am going to end the giveaway. Any last minute tickets you guys want to get, you can buy them with channel points, up to 20 tickets. And you should get one free. So just do exclamation point, whatever it said to do. I hid it from me. Anyways, you guys. Okay, yay, we're back. Okay, so we're going to do our drawing now. And we have not very many viewers, so this should be really a one-sided, just probably between Buggables and Storage Thrower, I'm guessing. So I am going to close the giveaway and let's see if this works. If it doesn't, we'll do a random number one, but either way, I think this will work. Draw a winner. Buggables, you win. Yay. So, you have my Discord. Just, if you want to message me your address, I will ship you a Jimothy. You can let me know whether you want sparkly Jimothy or plush Jimothy, and we will get that figured out. Anyways, all right. Well, at least we got to test whether I could get giveaways working. So yay! Alrighty, so back to my screen. Okay, that's good. That right. All right, so now we're gonna switch to white. And again, this is gonna be behind the mask, so I don't even have to worry about, is it obvious? Oh, let's see, my yarn. I blame the cat this time because it was on the floor. All right. All right, so when I normally change colors, what I do is I come up from the back of the next stitch. It's at least easy to see with this color that we couldn't see with black. And I pull that loop to the inside. I'm going to make it smaller this time though, because that was my problem. It frayed and then it wouldn't go through. And then I do kind of a chain stitch right there. And then I do my next stitch in that same kind of slip stitchy space we just made. And so what that does is it kind of just, when I pull these two strings tight, it really makes that almost like a straight line across there, so it's not as noticeable. All right, so we're gonna do, okay, so we're gonna be decreasing a lot. So we do 2 stitches, I think. Were we at 24? Yes, okay. So we're at 24 stitches now. So 2 stitches, then an invisible decrease. But I would like to do more giveaways. I think that's kind of fun. And I have a whole tote full of plushies. And especially when I make things on stream, I think it would be kind of fun to be able to give away what we make on stream. And I am hoping to have this pattern ready to go in the next couple of days. I was hoping to have it done today, but we'll see how tired I am. Okay, so when I get back around to here, I will tie off these strings kind of tight. Oh, I forgot to stuff the legs. Darn it. I really wanted to do that. I should do it before it gets any smaller, because that gets difficult. Get them all the way down in there. And Jimothy gets stuffed kind of snug. Usually my plushies I don't stuff overly stuffed, but for his legs I like how it makes him stand up. All right, so to finish this up, so again, when I come back here, I can go in the top of this stitch, or I can just go in this stitch here in the bottom of it and make a longer single crochet, and that helps mask that too. But you can see by doing that slip stitchy kind of stitch there, it even makes that less noticeable. All right, so I'm going to do some stuffing here before I forget. So basically, usually I don't stuff one. Usually I do all my stuffing by the time I get down to 12 stitches. At least this is bigger than the tiny ones. But I definitely want to get the legs stuffed kind of firmly. And I also want to see if I need to switch to the darker fluff. Nope, I think that's going to work. There's no holes. But since I did the darker gray, I could have used the darker stuffing, and that way if I stuff it firmly and any of the holes show, it would be a darker stuffing and wouldn't really be noticeable. So basically I'm just trying to get stuffing really into these legs, because that's what's going to make the feet, the little toes, flare out like this, because the legs will be stuffed up to that point. Plus, it makes his little hips and haunches puff out right when you get it stuffed firmly back there, too. I'm going to go and stuff the front legs, and then I'll stuff the body. I do like that by the time you get the legs attached, you're almost done, because his body is really stumpy. And then all we have to do is make his little ear, attach his ears and his mask. Oh, I forgot to do something on the previous row. So his little cheeks. Actually, no, I'm in the right place. The white row was the one I was supposed to add those. I forgot to add that into the pattern because I added it after. You can see the difference between non-fluffy Jimothy's face and this one with the little fuzzy bits on the side. I want to leave the front loops for those. And I don't see any holes, so that's good. So I'm going to pull out part of the white row for a minute, because I want to add his little ruffs on the side of his face. And all we're doing for that is working in the back loop only for a couple of stitches, so it leaves the front loops that we can work in later. All right. So it needs to be down from the ears. 1, 2 stitches down from the ears. So okay, I think I know where it's supposed to be. We'll have to check. 1, 2. Oh, this is a decrease. 1, 2, and then our decrease. That's going to be tricky to explain because it's going to be back loop only for the decrease as well. So that's a little tricky. 1, 2. All right, so that gives me 3 loops. Okay, so then, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Doing decreases while doing, leaving stitches for later is a little tricky. Did I do that right? 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease. Okay. 2. All right, and then down from this side, I want to make sure it lines up. So 2, 3. All right, we'll just do it and see if it lines up. So then we do 1. Oh, wait. A regular one, and then a back loop 1, and then a back loop decrease. And then our decrease. All right, so now we should have 18 stitches, and I just want to make sure my back loops really do line up where they're supposed to, which is 1, 2, 3 here, and those are way higher. Okay. I'm gonna across the bottom. That might help easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so our back loops, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, I just did it too late. 5, 6. My music stopped. Quinn's purring so loud. She's like 3 feet away from me and I can hear her. All right, let's see if that lines up. All right, so the ears will be there and there. Well, it looks close enough. We're going to go with that because I can always fudge it later. All right, so 1. Okay, that was a decrease. Okay. I'm going to have to write this one down or I will forget this. 1, 2, and 3. And I did already tie that off. Good. Okay, so we're going to single crochet 2 plus an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, wait, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Did that twice. Then we do a single crochet and then a back loop, single crochet, and decrease. Then 1, 2, 3. Repeat that. And then repeat that. Single crochet, single crochet, no. And back loop only. Okay, wait. I can't count. All right, so that was our decrease. And 1, 2, 3, 1. Okay, that is the same thing. But my bracket goes there. We do that. And then we 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then do that twice. All right. Here's hoping. All right. So now we're going to go from 18 stitches down to 12. I think I have 18. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Yay. All right. So now it's just going to be a single crochet and then a decrease, which I already did one. So this will be my decrease. And then 1, decrease. And I'm doing invisible decreases here because I do like them best most places, but on short rows they just don't work because they leave that back loop on the wrong side. You could probably do a front loop one that way. I mean, working the back loop only instead, but it's not ideal. All right, so now we're down to 12. So here's where I definitely want to add my stuffing because, and I can take my marker out now, because I definitely want more control over the stuffing. If you stuff it too late, you can't get your fingers in there to really move the stuffing around, and I like to put the stuffing in the middle, and then I use my fingers to pull it out to the outside. So I'm going to put loose stuffing in there, but I'm kind of going into the middle and then pushing it to the outside, because what that does is it makes the outside nice and smooth without it being lumpy. So I fluff up the stuffing and then I put it in the center and then just with my fingers pull it to the outside, kind of like this. And get a nice fluffy shape without being lumpy. And especially on one where you want it stuffed firmly, it's really easy to get like lumps on the outside. He's gonna be a very chunky Jimothy. And his legs stand up nice. Still needs a bit more stuff though. All right, we can add a little more toward the end here, but I think that's really good. So here's where you can kind of really start to see how the shape of those short rows, we did them more dramatically here. We did more decreases, so it pulled it down. So that really gives him that forehead, you know, down to the white. Because this one, the white just poked up too much, so by doing more short rows there, it helped with that. And you really can't see where the short rows were very noticeably on here. There's just a little bit texture difference, but it's not as noticeable as on the flat acrylic. All right, so now we're going to go down to 8 stitches. So again, we're just going to single crochet in one and then a decrease all the way around. And an invisible decrease on these because I want it so smooth there because that's his nose. And it is harder to maneuver him once he's stuffed firmly, so that's the other reason I wait as long as I can, but I also want to make sure I have room to move. All right, so now we're at 8. And we're going to do 8 more. So we're just going to work evenly around because we want his nose to be really pokey, you know, but I am going to add a little more stuffing on each of these rows as I go because it's harder to get stuffing in when there's only 8. All right, so then I'm just going to work evenly around this row, doing 8 single crochets, nice and snug. All right, and then I'm going to go and just slip stitch. Not necessary, but I like to. And then we're going to give ourselves a long tail here to sew it shut. Because Jimothy is very low sew. The only sewing we have to do really is sewing on his mask and sewing his nose shut. And sewing a hole closed is pretty normal. And if it's just that, I usually consider it a no-sew because that's really just closing a gap, not really assembling something. So when I sew these shut, what I like to do is go through both loops of this first one. So this knot that I made, that slip stitch knot really goes on the inside. But then the other stitches, I pick up just this front loop. And on the plush yarn, I'm going to kind of pull it as I go because it gets a little more finicky and likes to fray. So about every 2 stitches, I'll pull it a little tighter just to get it starting to close. We're going to stitch his little nose over top of it too, so that will help mask it even further. But I do want a little pokey nose. That's why I overstuffed it too, so that when I fluff him out, it'll fill out his nose. All right, so then I'm just going to tie a knot here, and I'm going to do it at the top because that's where the mask is going to go, so nobody will see it. And I'm just going to hide that inside the body. And yes, it looks like he has no nose right now. He's a Persian cat, but that will fluff right back up. And you can even take the needle if you want and poke it back out. And then we'll fluff him so his stuffing goes up there too. And so there we have kind of our Jimothy body. Head, face, arms, tail. So now what we need to do is attach his ears and his little ruffles. Although I might do his mask first because those, well, no, I want the ears at least because then I might not put them on right. I want to make sure when I attach the mask that it's centered. If the ears aren't on yet, you might not necessarily notice it's not centered. So what I like to do is leave a little bit of a tail and make a slip knot. So then what I do is with Jimothy facing me, I'm going to do a double crochet. So I hold my thumb on the hook and yarn over, and I go through that loop right there where we had the front loop only left and work a double crochet. The reason I do a floating double crochet like this is I want this tail to be on this side of here, so when I tack it down, it folds the ear the right way. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets in this stitch, in that front loop, and I can pull that yarn out of my way now. So there, I have 3 double crochets all in that one little loop. Then I'm going to do a mini picot, which is chain 2 and slip stitch in the second one. You could also go in the top of this double crochet. Sometimes I like the way that looks a little bit better. And then I'm going to do 3 double crochets in that second front loop only. It's going to be the weirdest looking ear you've ever seen until we finish. But I will show you what it looks like before and after. Then I'm going to chain and cut a little bit long tail again. And pull that through. And then I'll show you what that looks like. So here's our ear. It's 3 double crochets, a mini picot, and 3 double crochets. And it doesn't look like much until we fold it down. So when we fold it down, we come down 1 row, actually maybe even 2 rows, and we'll just tack it down right there. So we're just kind of folding it forward and bringing it to the inside. So we're really going to tack it down 2 rows up right in front of that row, and 2 rows up right in front of there. So our spots will be here and here that we're going to tack it. And you don't even have to sew it. You can just go through here with your, actually what I like to do is come from the same stitch on both of them. So I'm going to come up 1, 2. This hook doesn't work very good because it doesn't have a long neck on it. And you can check it out before you knot it too. So if I come from the same loop back here and then 1, 2 right there, then I take this corner and pull it through to the back. So now when I pull these two, since they're both in the same space, I can knot it when I'm done. But I can see, does that look good or do I need to change it some? And I actually think I probably want to go over 1 more stitch on this one. And again, I don't usually use my crochet hook. I usually use a yarn needle just because it gives me a little more control. So I'm just going to go there and up through that loop. There. So see, 1 little ear. And I'm not even going to knot it yet because once I get the other one, I might want to change it some. But basically, we just folded the ear forward, came up two rows from where the base stitches were, and just went in those loops and out the back. So we folded the ear. So see, it was like this and like this. And we went up 2 rows right in front of each one, and then came out the same hole in the back so that when I pull them, I can tie a knot back here and it'll hold it in place. Okay, so let's do the other one. I like adding embellishments like this because it doesn't require as much gut instinct as to where they go. I mean, yeah, the ears, there's a little bit of instinct, but again, I'm telling you exactly how many rows to go and stuff, so it works well. So I'm going to hold the yarn on my hook as I yarn over so it doesn't sit there and spin. Do 3 double crochets in this first loop. 1. And I can get rid of this thread now. But by putting the thread there, it actually kind of makes it easier to find. It raises the loop a little bit, so it does help. 2 and 3. And our mini picot, chain 2, and then slip stitch. I like to go again right in the top of this double crochet, just when I'm doing ears or something, because I don't want to stick out quite as much. On a leaf, I'll do it in the second loop, but this one. And then 3 double crochets in that next front loop only. 1, 2, 3, and our chain and cut. And cutting a bit of a long tail just because it gives us more to work with. Okay, so just like the other ear, I'm going to take this side and come up 2 rows. So 1, 2, and you can go further back too. It doesn't have to be that close to the ear. It could even be on the other side of the plushie. other one. And we'll count up 1, 2, and then out the same hole. All right, then we just make sure, do they look uniform enough or do I need to change them at all? And I think they're probably okay. So then what I do is I take this and I kind of tug it a little bit because I want the knot to eventually be inside the body. So when I tie it so the knot kind of slips inside. And I don't want the ears to loosen up either. All right, then I will just thread both. You can do them one at a time or together. Doesn't really hurt anything either way. And I'm just going to go back in the same hole I was in and out the other side of the body. So that will definitely hide my tails really well. And I tug it a little bit, and when I go to use these scissors, I actually point them this way so that there's no way I'm going to cut a loop on the body. I'm going to yarn everywhere. Okay, I'll do the same thing with the other side. So when I'm threading the needle too, I like to fold it over the needle and then I pinch it, because then when I go back with the needle, I can just kind of slide it back and forth to thread it. Especially if I'm putting like 4 thicknesses of yarn through it, it definitely helps. So again, I'm going to go back through the hole I was just in and out through the body. Ta-da! Tug them a little bit. All right, so he's getting there. He's got his ears. So then his little frills are going to go right here along the side. This is where I might need to adjust them a little bit because I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to put, make sure they line up right. So I leave a little bit of a tail because I'm going to want to tuck it inside the body. And I should have labeled these because I can't see them real well, but there's 1, 2, 3, and there's 1, 2, 3. All right, so all I do, let's see how I did that. Here's, I didn't write it down. Okay, basically I do a single crochet and then a chain 3 and then a single crochet in the next one and the chain 4. No, I think it's just 3. Basically just single crochet, chain 3 in each of these. One, 2. Did I miss one? Oh, I know what I did. Probably should have put 4 loops. 1, 2, 3, because I want 3 single crochets. I want 3 loops, 4 single crochets. 2, 3. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, that works. So what I did is I did a single crochet, chain 3, single crochet in the next front loop only, and then chain 3, and then in the same loop I did a single crochet, chain 3, and then the last one a single crochet. Hi, Catzilla. So I chained 1 and fastened that off. So again, you see that these tail ends are sticking up, but once we put them into the body, we don't even necessarily have to tie it off. They should stick pretty good, but I'll probably tie it off too. I'm going to give her Catzilla again. You're being a really good Catzilla. You're not too obnoxious today. All right, so again, when I go to weave these in, I will just probably go 1 stitch over, just because I could go in the same one, but I think it spreads it out nicely if I go in the next stitch. And then back here somewhere. And I just like to make sure I'm in the hole, not splitting the yarn. And I'll do the same thing here. I'm off seam, sorry guys. So I'll hold it up a little closer. So it looks like this plushie's going to be right at 3 hours, I think. So that's not too bad, especially with the redoing parts of it. So again, this is the stitch I'm just going to go over 1. I'll show it again before I pull it too tight. So when I have the end of the yarn here, I just went over one stitch to go in this stitch on either side of it. So on either side, I just put one, and then when I pull them here, it makes it all nice and roughy. So then I will tie this off just like I did the ears. But I like that it's not really traditional sewing on these pieces. So I do it a little bit tight. You can see how it's puckering in the body a little bit when I do that. Because then when I pull it, no, I want to use the needle. I like using the needle because then it has the texture of the fluffing to keep the ends from doing anything wacky. And I just have more control. Now we'll just see if the other side lines up. But again, where we changed color here on the top of the face, we're not going to see that at all because the mask is going to go across there. Doing the eyes on the mask is going to be a little tricky because I found you can't do safety eyes on top of a mask that's not sewn on until the face is all done. So I have some ideas I'm going to play with this time. What I did on this first one, though, is I just used French knots, and I think they turned out really cute because you really just need a tiny dot of an eye anyways. There, the tiny dots. Those are just French knots. This one I did safety eyes, but the backs aren't on these yet. Because I've got to order some that are more button-like that I can actually sew on. But they stay pretty good. Not something I give to a child, though. All right, so then I'm going to flip him around and find his other 3 stitches, which are here, here, and here. Which might be one too low, so I think I'm just going to attach it. When I did these otherwise, you can actually just go through the stitch, too. And I like to make sure that Jimothy's face is facing me because I want the front of these stitches to be facing, not the back. But you see how adding these embellishments is really pretty simple when you leave yourself front loops to work with, so you know where they go. And we're going to have the mask across here, so it does, you know, even if they don't line up exactly right, that masks some issues with it. So I think that works. So I need to move it up 1 row on my instructions. And so I just go over 1 stitch. Now at the back. This is not for you though, Quinn. Quinn's like, is that my new sister? Is that my new brother? All right, we're just going to go over 1 stitch and out the same hole. If I can reach that far. And sometimes if I already have the needle on the yarn on the needle, I'll just go ahead and go back through then. Oops, except I lost it. Never mind. This fluffy stuff, and see where I pull it, sometimes it'll be a little divot, but as soon as I fluff it back up, it's fine. And then here on his frills, we fluff them out a little more because I pull them tight when I'm knotting them and they get a little. And there's ears. All right, so far so good. We have our Jimothy shape and a cat in the way. There's his little tail and my tummy growling. So let's get the rest of this made. All right, so with the black yarn, we're going to make his little mask. This goes pretty quick too. So I leave a little bit of a tail on, well, it does, the starting tail doesn't matter. We're going to leave a little bit of tail to sew it on. This is really the only thing we have to position and sew on. So what I'm going to do here is chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to 1, 2, 3. In the third chain from the hook, we're going to put a bunch of stitches. We're going to put 2 double crochets, then a mini picot, which is a chain 2. Yep, I was making sure I wrote it right. Because this is what gives it that little point on the edge of the mask. And I usually try and tighten the slip stitch well, because that's what also makes it stay close to the body. And then 2 more double crochets in that same stitch. Then I'm going to chain 2 and slip stitch down into that same hole. So we just did a lot of stitches in that one stitch. It's hard to see because it's black, but we did a chain 5, and then we used a couple of those stitches for our beginning, and then we did 2 double crochets, a picot, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then slip stitch back in, all of those in that same stitch. So then we're going to slip stitch 2. 1 is kind of the middle where the bridge of the nose is, because we have 2 more chains here, so I just got to find them. I think they rotated. That's what that was. There's 1, and then 2, and then this last one we're going to put a bunch of stitches in. So we have our slip stitch, but then we're going to chain 2, do 2 double crochets, and then our mini picot, just chain 2 and slip stitch. Come on, tighten. There we go. And again, this yarn's a little finicky, so don't be surprised if you break it at least once. But these are at least small enough pieces that you're not losing a lot of work if that happens with the plush. All right, and then 2 more double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, and then a chain 2 and a slip stitch. Let's see how that looks. So this one I'm going to give myself a long string, because I'm also going to sew his nose on while I'm there. So I have probably about 18 inches of yarn. I probably don't need that much, but then I want to put it on here and see if that works, or if I need a little bit more space in between. I almost feel like that's not quite big enough on this one. Worked on the last one, but the plush yarn is a little, it might be fine once it's sewn on. Yeah, it goes about the same distance. Okay, so this is where I want to get creative with the safety eyes, because I think I can put the safety eyes on the mask and then sew the mask on, poking the ends into the face. So I'm really hopeful that will work. So I just got to see what size eyes we need for this, because I still want little beady eyes. So see, I had these teeny little ones in white that I should have used on Jimothy before I sewed his mask on. I might just snip his mask off and try and do it again on it for his. But we'll see. I think this size eye might be the right size, because we just want a little, just a little beady eye. Yeah, anything bigger than that I think is going to be too big. But I also want to make sure it doesn't slip through the yarn. I might just sew these on. Do a French knot on this one, but I'm not finding a lot of places, since they're double crochets, there's not a lot of place to put them. Let's see what this will look like. So what I'm doing is trying to put it in the middle of the stitches of one of the double crochets. they kind of want to slip through, so we'll see. Yeah, see, even at that, it wants to slip into the thing that way. I think if I put felt behind it, maybe. I almost feel like these are even too big, that they should be about 30% smaller, maybe. That might be okay, though. I'm just used to working with tiny Jimothy. All right, well, I'm going to try and put some backs on, and we'll see how that looks. Kind of worried they're not going to stay on too, so before I attach the mask, I want to make sure that they're really solid. Otherwise, I will just do a French knot, because I think with the plush yarn that could work really well. So they definitely are on the yarn, but you can see that because it's a double crochet there, it kind of just flops around there a bit. This one's a little better. I think once it's on here, it'll be fine, because where we stitch it on, it's going to kind of hold it steady. I just don't like how it looks, though. What do you guys think? Just kind of, they're not really centered real well. I think I'm going to redo it and then stitch them on. I think it'll look better. But you could play around with the safety eyes. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I also might add one more stitch here, because on plush yarn, sometimes you need to make a few modifications. So I'm going to add one more space in the middle. So I'm going to chain 6. And we'll see if this looks a little better. So in the third chain, we're going to put our stitches. And I could make a variant mask that's single crochets or something a little more taut that won't. You think the eyes need to be bigger? That could be interesting. I felt they were too big, but that we can definitely play with it. I still think I'm fighting with it not being wide enough, so we'll play with it on this one. So let's see. Chain 2, 1, 2, and then on our picot. And that's why I love doing this as committee, because you know, I'm too close to them sometimes by the time I've made so many of them that I just can't. I don't have the perspective. All right, so now I'm going to slip stitch in 3 across here, but I think that's going to get us across the bridge of the nose a little bit better. We'll see how it looks. 1, 2, and then 2 more double crochets. And a picot, mini picot. Two more doubles. And then chain 2 and slip stitch. And a really long tail. And again, I could sew this on with acrylic instead of plush, and it might stitch on better too, because acrylic really frays when you try to sew things on with it. All right, so let's see if that's a little better, just 1 stitch wider. Yeah, I think I like that. Just a little bit wider, not quite as crowded there. I like one side better than the other because of the way it curls. So now let's play with different eyes. Because the bigger eyes would be more solid there too. So. Okay, so there's the super big eyes. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. What do you guys think? Because otherwise we can try these that are in between those two sizes. And then there's that size. It's harder to tell when it moves around, but do you want that size or the bigger ones? Writing my cheat sheet notes down. Well, do we want this one or the bigger one? Do you think? I'm gonna ban somebody real quick. Or did it already? There we go. We banned him. Okay. Don't know if you guys saw it, but yeah, I think the jumbo were a little too big too. All right, so let's try and attach. Okay, these were these ones. I'll eat lunch when I feel like it. My phone telling me I don't need to make sure not to forget to eat. My stomach's been growling for 15 minutes, so I don't think that's going to happen. All right, so we got our backs. Let's see if this works a little better. These are at least a lot bigger, so they seem to stay between the stitches a little better. But I like that I can play around with it before it's not really on the body, so I can play with it. And making a new mask is not hard. So if I don't like the way it looks, I can just adjust it. But I do like to go through the stitches of one of the double crochets so that it's not in the gap between them. Grab some of my marking pins. I really do like marking pins for assembling things. And so then what I want to do is just pretty much center it on between the gray and white, where I'll put the eyes right between. See if I was to look, the eyes are right at the gray-white line. And I just want to peg it down so that it doesn't shift when I'm sewing it. And it should be, the corners should end up just right about where the ruffles are. So this comes in right below. So it sits right on top of there. Just gonna pull that. And I find the better I have something held down, the better the outcome. So I have a whole box of these somewhere. But I do like being able to pin them down. Because that way you can also see if I pull down on this nose piece, it can definitely make it not look like it's just two hearts. It's like higher at the top, and this can be pegged down just a little bit more. And then when we're done, we'll just bring the black up here and stitch its little nose. Hydrate and get a snack. Oh my goodness. Oh, where did I put my yarn? I mean, my water bottle. I have not drank water in 3 hours. Thank you. All right, you guys get to follow me to the kitchen while I go grab it off the table. Hopefully the camera isn't flying this time. I had a nice glass of iced tea, except my little cat Zilla decided to play with the ice. She was in there pawing the ice. No, get back here. Down here. I'm down here. My little friend. She's like, where'd you go? I need to name my camera. What did you just knock off? Winch. Knocking off all what? That's not a bug. It's a piece of fuzz. I think she's a little upset because I have notebooks and fluff and stuff and everything on her table. I do have a fun snack though. Check out my snack machine. It's a gumball machine for M&Ms that I 3D printed. And it's so shiny. It's pink and blue. The pink matches my hair and the blue matches my car. But I like that it's shiny. See, it's got like a metallic sheen to it. No. Oh, Quinn says she wants some too. Yes, I'll give you a free treat too. Here you go. Ready? Okay. Go away. I got a message in the screen. It won't go away now. Okay. It is fancy. And easy. All right. So we have Mr. Jimothy here all pinned down where we want to attach his face. So we'll see how this yarn holds up. If it doesn't, we'll switch to acrylic to stitch it down. I think if I go really slow, it'll, or you know, not pull it too hard, it should be okay. All right, so all I really do is tack it down in a few places. So right where this yarn is, I'm going to go into the body there and just come up, and I come up right, just catch the edge of the stitch. So you can kind of see I'm just picking up the edge. And I've heard if you pull the yarn in the direction that it's wanting to go, like we're going that way, it won't snag as much. Except, what am I snagged on? Oh, that was the other tail. Like, why is it there? All right, so then what I'll do is I'll come back a stitch and through the body and then up to one of the future stitches, even if it's a couple of stitches over, because like I'm right here, I'm coming way over here because I can come back to here to go further. That gives me a little bit more grip to hold it to the body. Keep catching that tail. Okay. And then here I'll go back a stitch and just through the 2 loops like if I was crocheting it, and then I'm going to catch. I don't want to tack down this tail end because I kind of want it to stick up. I like how the edge is sticking up just a little bit, give it just a little bit of character there. So now I can take out that one. You can see that kind of sticks up a little bit, which is good. And I don't really need to go back a stitch here, but I guess I can. And then through the body and then back up maybe where that pin is. And just making sure the eyes are really poked into the body as I get to that point. But as I poke them into the body, I can kind of go and position it more if I want like more raised eyebrows. I can just kind of poke it up a little bit more. When I get down to here, I want to do something a little bit specific though. Right at the bridge here, I'm going to do my back stitch here. But then what I want to do is come up right in the center because I want to tack this down where it's pretty tiny. So I want to go around this once, just without picking up stitches in the body. Because I like when it kind of looks more like without the fuzz in the way. Yeah, there. And then I'll go into the body there. But that way it'll tack it down without making it bigger there. So now I went through the body on that one. And I'll go in the same stitch here. And then I just want to make sure it mirrors on the other side. So I might want to bring it down just a little bit. And see, I'm just making sure that it kind of has about the same shape to it. Come on, let go of that one. I should have just tucked that tail in. But see right here where it's kind of raising up a little bit, all I have to do is put my needle in there and then go a little lower and it will be lower. And I might try and figure out a way to do this one where the black part gets attached, like we do color changes to do it. I just thought this way gets that really the lifted sides on it that I really liked. We are almost done with Jimothy. All right, and we're back here to the center. That looks pretty good, pretty consistent from here at least. But if there's anywhere else I wanted to circle back around and do, I could. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of tie this off, but then I'm going to go do the nose. So I came back to here, and the reason I left that tail is because I could knot it kind of underneath the eyes there, so nobody sees the knot, but it gives me just a little more to attach to there. And then I'm going to go through the body there and out where I want the nose to be. And all I want is just the tippy top of the nose right here. I think that's the right spot. And after I get there, I can move it over if I need to. All right. And so if the thread's if the yarn's too ratty, like you can see it's already fraying here, I think it's going to be okay. But you could always use a new piece of yarn for this. But all I'm going to do is go over like one stitch, maybe. Just a little nubbin of a nose. Oops. There we go. I pulled it too much the other way. Oh, Quinn's up on the cabinet tops, way up there in the rafters. All right, and then I'm just going to do like 3 stitches here. And I'm not pulling it too tight, just enough to give it a little, and I'm kind of positioning it so one's above and one's below the original one. And there's our little nose. So then all I'm going to do is go back through that stitch I just did and back to where I had my tail, because I can tie it off again. And I don't want to pull it too tight because it will. So one thing you could do too while you're tying it off is you could put a marking pin or even a needle through there, so that when you're tying this, it won't pull it back through too tight. So again, I'm knotting it underneath the eyes, the little mask there, so you can't really see it. And I'm just going to go through the body and out somewhere. I love how it puts fuzzies everywhere, so probably should lint roller this guy when I'm done. All right, usually I take him out through the bottom because then I don't have to worry about what it looks like. And I'll take his little nose pin out, and there he is. Fluff him up. He's got his little whiskers, his little ears, his face mask, and we are done with fuzz everywhere. I'm gonna have to clean in here. All right, I will give a Jimothy show here in just a second. Yes, I kicked your treat jar. Oh my goodness. That doesn't mean you're getting them. All right. Get all the fuzz up. And there's Jimothy. His little paws. He says hi. And Quinn's like, my table. All right, so I'm going to switch back to the front camera so we can see him better. All right, so here's how Jimothy turned out. So you can see that we got nice expressive face with his little frills on the side, his little nose, his eyeballs, his ears. You see how we went around the legs. You can definitely see that it gets like real hips on it, so it's not too, flimsy looking. Then he's got his little tail. It even wags. Yes, just like yours, Quinn. And a nice shape to him. Nice fluffy and squishy, overstuffed so that it stays good. And then his little paws, because we made these little hands that aren't stuffed, when he sits on things, they just bend like little claws, and you can see them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I think it was really fun to make him on stream. I made him in a park last week, or designed him in a park. So, but anyways, there he is. And Buggables gets to win one. So we'll talk offline, Buggables. We'll get you a Jimothy of your very own. And you could even give him little mask, the little smile like cats have where it comes down from the nose. I think that's how raccoon mouths would look. Anyways, yay, Jimothy. Thank you all for joining me today. Sorry it's been so long since I streamed. It feels like forever. Quinn, don't eat the safety eyes. She's got her nose in the box. I'm like, that's not for you. And so I did find these white safety eyes too, which are kind of cool. I really like to have the ones that are shank buttons that I can sew on, especially when I'm designing, because I don't know where the eyes are going to go until I've already got it done. But I do like the white ones because theoretically I could paint them any way I wanted as well. Like I could make that the white of the eye and then put pupils and stuff on them. So that could be kind of fun. So otherwise, I'm going to have my mind flayer. I'll probably finish him up this week sometime, maybe Tuesday, because I've got 2 arms and a head from last time I streamed before camp. And so, yeah, we'll get together again soon and do some more streaming. And let's see, did I miss anything else? I don't think I did. I drank my water. I had my snack. And now I'm going to go get some lunch. Hi, Quinn. Yes, you're back. I will give you one more Catzilla on the way out. You did your due diligence and showed up 11 times this month. You're kind of slacking off, Cat. March, she did 44 times. So I don't think she's going to compare to that yet for a while. I think she's being better since I have the new desk that has an L to the side, because she can lay off to the side and not be quite this. But we love you. Yes, we do. All right. Well, I will see you all again soon. And let me know what you think of my Jimothy pattern when he comes out. And I'm sure you could use some testing because, you know, every time I do them, I find something I would change. And I'm trying really hard not to change them too much because then I have to test them again and then I'll mess it up again. So I will get this written up sometime today, tomorrow, Tuesday, maybe by Wednesday at the latest. Because I'm off work Wednesday. So I should be able to get it done by then, if not before. And we'll see how it goes. Thanks a lot, and we will see you all again soon. I hope you're having a great summer.